I literally started going to church because I was looking for an escape, a way to get out of that toxic home that I was in. Something like growing up in my toxic families made me search for God, made me run to God. So when I started going to church, I was very quiet because I was really traumatized by the things that I've experienced with my family, the demonic things that I was continuing to experience at night when I went to bed, the sleep paralysis that happened every night because of things that my parents came in agreement with. So when I started going to church, and I can feel everyone's spirit, their energy. And one thing I can say about church that I learned was that that same spirit that was in my home was in that church. And it wasn't the church, but a lot of that spirit follows prophetic people. So like it literally sets up camp. Wherever there's a lot of prophetic people, it's going to be a lot of that spirit in there. So, and then a lot of times people are not in tune with God to really see through the mask because that spirit is so good at hiding that a lot of people in the church, they just be so caught up in religion that they don't pay attention to the spirits that are literally hanging out in there. And that's what I could feel. It felt very, the word, I always felt extremely uncomfortable, extremely not terrified, but you know, that fear or that feeling you get when you feel like it's something dark in here. And it wasn't necessarily the church, but it was some darkness that came into the church to hang out and pull people out and silence people. And that happens a lot. People in the church really don't pay attention. Religious people do not pay attention. They're so trapped and wrapped up in religion that they don't pay attention to the enemy that's crept into the building. And then a lot of times they sit and they shout and they run up and down the aisles. And honestly, like what I have gathered from my experience from just observing, this spirit goes as high as the pulpit. It'll go as high as the pulpit. It'll be pastors. Like from my experience, if it's not the pastor, it's the wife. If it's the deacon board, you'll have that spirit creeps into the deacon board. It crept into the music department. It was in every department. That spirit sat in place in every department. The first place that I could tell and notice that that spirit was heavy in was prayer. Wherever there was prayer, these demons were going up and down the aisles as loud as they wanted to be because, like, you know, they have to deceive people and they have to put on a show to look like they're just so spiritual when they're not. But that's one thing that I noticed was they were so loud. That spirit, it reveals itself because it's loud. Because God didn't ever tell you to be loud and showing off and make sure people can hear that you're praying and stuff like that. But that spirit, that's what it does because it knows a lot of people in the church are ignorant and they're going to think the louder they are, the more saved and more sanctified and holy they are. And no, that's the biggest demon. So that's one thing I noticed within the church. These spirits go in for top positions. They don't just stay at the bottom. They go for the top positions and they get close enough to the pastor. They get close. They get deep into the prayer ministry. They get deep into the deacon board, the usher board. They get in there. There's always one or two planted in each ministry in each part of the church system. But one thing I noticed within the prayer system, it'll be like five of them planted in there doing all the all that, being loud and going up and down the aisles. I remember when we used to be in prayer that it was a few that would be going walking up and down the aisles waving their hands, the biggest hellions that existed. And like now when you pay attention to stuff, that's why the Bible said watch as well as pray. And you have to really pay attention because these demons out here really fooling people. Narcissists are doing it and they doing it. The Jezebel spirit is running rampant in the church and the church is ignorant and doesn't see it.